Hello, Programming 12. We're going to take a look at the GameObject class for our new dungeon crawl game. This is going to be the foundational class upon which all of our game objects are made. Whether it's a hero, a bullet, an enemy, you name it, all of those classes will be built on this foundation. There might be a few classes this time around that aren't built on that foundation, though. Things like the kind of fog of war, darkness, possibly the whatever class represents the type of weapon we're holding. But nonetheless, a lot of things will be based on the GameObject class as the foundation. So let's go over it and make sure it makes sense. To start with, most of our game objects, I guess all of our game objects, I'm banking on having a location and a velocity. I decided to call it lock and bell just to lower the amount of typing I have to do. So those are pretty common video game words for variables that mean those things. Also, I want to have a hit points variable for everything. Why hit points? Well, hit points, even if something doesn't necessarily have hit points, like a bullet, you don't imagine a bullet being like damaged. You still want to eventually destroy them at some point. So having a variable called hit points when that value gets to 0 means that the object has been destroyed. That's a good variable to have for even things that, anything that can be destroyed, basically. So that's great. And things like enemies and characters will have a lot more interesting things to do with the hit points as well. So that's a good foundation. Here I have my constructor. I'm going to make a default constructor that basically makes a location variable be at the center of the screen. And it's going to have no velocity. It's not moving at all. It's going to have 1 hit point. That's my default. The show function, we could put in a default show function, but I'm not sure what that would be, so I think I'll just leave it alone. And the act function. Here's my default act function. So moving is something that a lot of these things do. So we just add our velocity to our location to move nowadays. And then I'm going to be checking to see if I am hitting the walls. So for me, I made my walls at 10% and 90% of the screen width. So instead of hard coding these, I made it a bit of a formula. So you might have just a number that you're going to use, but for me, I decided to do width times 0.1, which is 10%. So my width is 800, so this is like less than 80. And basically, it's just making sure that I hit the walls. I don't know if this will work if I run it right now. Maybe it will. Yeah, so basically these are my walls here. So this space here is 10% of the width, which is where that math comes from. So if I run into the edge of see, I'm hitting the edge. That's this code here that's doing that checking, just to say, hey, if I go below that value, set it to that value. If I go above this value, set it to that value. That way I can't go over or under any of those walls coordinates. And that kind of creates, the illusion of there being walls there. I figure just about everything wants to be contained by that walls, whether they're enemies or bullets. You don't want those to move any further than that, so that's going to be something all the game objects will have. So there you go. There's my game object class. This might change as we go forward, so stay open to some possibilities of adding things in, and hopefully that made sense to you. Please feel free to ask in class if it did not. Okay, thanks everybody.